Boker Or, Masechet Batra Daf Yomi Daf Kuf Ayin Amud Aleph 178-1. There was going to be a machloket between, when Rav Dimi came from Babel, he said there's going to be a machloket, Haim Otiyot Niknet B'Mesira or not, which means if right now you're going to say that it's going to acquire, meaning Otiyot is a shtar, is that going to be shtar going to be acquired by giving over or not? Okay, so here he comes and it says like this. Yeah, we said, Kiata Rav Dimi Amar B'Otiyot Nikno B'Mesira Kamipalge. Rashbag holds En Otiyot Nikno B'Mesira, and therefore the fact that you come and you find the shtar mechida on the name of somebody else cannot be a proof that it's his. And Rabbi Savar Otiyot Niknot B'Mesira. Okay, fine. So now what happens is as follows. Amar le Abaye. Abaye comes and he's going to ask on Rav Dimi, because Rav Dimi wants to say that is the machloket between them. Okay, because if you remember, we said that what happens if a person comes with a shtar and a chazakah, what's stronger? So again, according to the first shita, Rabbi, he says shtar, and Rashbag says chazakah. So what is the machloket? Do you say that, or is it going to be strong enough to acquire or not? So Amar le Abaye comes and he asks the following question: if so, plukta ledemor. He says it comes out that the pirush, your pirush, is actually arguing on Rabbah. He says why? He said above the Rashbag holds Otiyot niknot b'mesira. And now, according to your pirush, Rashbag is holding exact opposite. Meaning like this. Go above, right? He says, Kiata Rav Dimi Amar Otiyot niknot b'mesira kamipalgeh. What does Rashbag hold? In Otiyot niknot b'mesira. They're not going to be acquired by mesira. On Kuf Samechet Amud Bet, it came out that according to Shitat Rabba, he says, Otiyot niknot b'mesira kamipalgeh. That Rashbag Savar Otiyot niknot b'mesira. Everyone sees the contradiction. In Rabba, in Rashbag, right? Otiyot niknot b'mesira. In Rav Dimi, in Rashbag, en Otiyot niknot b'mesira. And it's the same person. It's Rashbag. So therefore, it's coming out that there's going to be a machloke between Rabbah and Rav Dimi in Shitat Rashbag. Shitat Rabbi Shimon Gamliel. So Amalei, so comes Rav Dimi and he answers, V'tiflog. No, what's the big deal? Okay, fine. So we have a machloket in Shitat Rashbag. What's the problem? So Amalei told him, Hachi kamin alecha. This is what I meant to really ask you. Matnita lo metarza, ela ke metarza more. He comes and he says like this. The first braita, which is brought above, is only going to be answered according to the way that Rabbah answered, that Rashbag is going to hold Otiyot nikno b'mesira. Okay? So he says, which means this is the psak of Rashbag and the braita, that if right now he's going to come and he's going to give back the shtar matana to the one that's giving it, so the matana is chuzeret. So therefore, only if you hold Otiyot nikno b'mesira can you say such a thing. Yeah, so he says, so therefore, in Ken, if so, Kashya de Rashbag. It comes out that according to you, it's a contradiction in Rashbag. Meaning, according to Rabbah, it makes sense. Why? Rabbah said, Niknot b'mesira, according to Rashbag, and therefore he gave you a present. He gave you the shtar with the present. The second you give back the shtar, you give back the present. According to the way that you're learning, that in Rashbag, enotiyot niknot b'mesira, so therefore, it doesn't work. How does it work then? So Elam and Abaye, but rather because of this question, Abaye comes and says, what are we dealing with exactly? In the shtar, one of the edim are found to be a family member, that's a karov, or pasul, an ed pasul. And therefore, right, so if be'emet, it was going to be regular witnesses, but there were other witnesses, right? Meaning, many times it happens that you have two people that are signing a document, but there's other people present as well. They just didn't sign. So he says like this. So flukta de Rabbi Min Rabbi Lazar kami palgen. This is a machlok between Rabbi Min and Rabbi Lazar. Rabbi Savala Rabbi Lazar. Rabbi holds like Rabbi Lazar the Amar that he says edem mesira karte, meaning the witnesses that are seeing the given over of the get, those are the ones that are giving the chalut, right? They are the ones that are giving the power to the get. And therefore, they are the ones that are cutting everything off. And therefore, the shtar is going to be kosher because of a de mesira, not because of a de chatima. Edeh Chatima would have been pasul because again they're family members, or because right the person was pasul. So therefore, mitzad the witnesses which are signed on the get, it's not going to be kosher. But because of the witnesses which are present at the time of the giving over, that's why it's going to be kosher. Rashbag holds like a mean that he says edeh hatima karte. What does it mean edeh hatima karte? It means that the edim which are going to be signed on the get are the ones which are giving the tokef to the get. They have to be the ones which are cutting off the kesher ishut. So therefore, those are called the edeh hatima. So says the Gemara, Beha Amar Rabbi Abba, but Rabbi Abba comes and he says, Modei Rabbi Lazam Zuyav V'Tucho Shu Pasul. Says, I don't understand you. Even if you tell me one more time, right? When you give over a get, there's going to be two different concepts. There's going to be witnesses which are signed on the get, and then there's going to be witnesses which are going to be present at the giving over of the get. Now, nowadays, they're the same ones, meaning the same ones which are the ones which are signing are the ones which are present for the mesirah, for the giving over. But the machloka between Rabbi Elazar and Rabbi Meir is, which are the ones which give the power to the get? Is it the ones which are signing on the get? Because he learns it from the Katav, right? The Katav of 782 says, V'ketiva lishma, so the Chatima has to be, right? Or do you say, no, do you say it's only the mesirah? So now, even if you're going to tell me that it's the mesirah, which is Shitat Rabbi Elazar, which means that I don't care who signed on the get. All I care is the ones which are giving over the get. Yeah, that's fine. That's fine. But one second. So, right? So he says, however, though, even according to Rabbi Elazar, that he says the main witnesses are the ones which are what? Which are the giving over, and I don't really care about the ones which are signed on the document. He says he does admit of a concept called mezuyaf mitucho. Mezuyaf mitucho means if right now the document is signed, as long as I have witnesses which are giving it over, it's kosher. But what happens if the witnesses on the document are mezuyafim, meaning that it's ki'ilu, they're pasul. For whatever reason, they're disqualified. The ones that signed, they're disqualified for whatever reason. He agrees that it's also bad. And the reason why is because that's considered mezuyaf mitucho. It's forged from within it. Meaning, I don't care about the ones which are signed in the document. If you have kosher witnesses which are signed in the document, and then you have another two witnesses which are giving over, I'm going to ask you, Shitat Rabbi Elazar, what is the ikar? The ones which are giving over. I don't care about the ones which are signed. But if the ones which are signed are disqualified for whichever reason, he also admits that it's a problem.
The signature is the most important?
No, because if it's not signed,
Can you rely on?
so he already admits that Modei Rabbi Elazar Mezuyav V'Tucho Shu Pasul. El Amar Rabbi Avina, says Rabbi Avina, Hakol Modim Shim Katuv Bo. Everybody agrees that if it's going to be written in it, Modim Shim Katuv Bo, Huskaknu Le'edutan Shel Edim, that we need these Edim, Venintzet Edutan Mezuyefet, and it comes out that it's going to be, right, Mezuyefet, or Pasul, meaning forged or Pasul, Shu Pasul, that it is going to be Pasul. Rabbi Abba, just like Rabbi Abba said above, meaning that even according to Shitat Rabbi Elazar, that the main thing, meaning if I'm going to ask you right now, what is the most important part on the get? And you're going to tell me the witnesses which are signed, that's incorrect, because that's what we mean. Right? We pass like Rabbi Elazar, which is basically edem sirah. Lechatchila, we also go like Rabbi Meir, right? Really from Lechatchila, we also go like Rabbi Meir. Lechatchila, we also sign. But the main ones which give the power to the get are the ones which are giving it over. Now, since though, according to him, if it's already signed, they have to be kosher witnesses. But if not, it's called mezuyaf mitucho. Meaning, even though these are the ones which are giving the power to the get, if it's signed with not kosher witnesses for whatever reason, they're disqualified, they're pasul, they're family members, whatever it is, it destroys the get, the validity of the get, because that means it's ki'ilu, that it's forged from within. So he says, K'de Rabbi Abba. So he says, Lo nechliku. So what is the machloket then? Ela b'shtar she'en alav edim. There's no edim at all. The Rabbi Savala Rabbi Elazar. Rabbi holds like Rabbi Elazar. The man of the Mesirah Karta that he says the Mesirah are the ones which give the power to the get. And Rashbag holds like Rabbi Meir that he says no, the Chatima Karta, that it's the ones which are signing, which are giving the power to the get. One second. The Ibaitayman, if you want, you could answer. The machloket really be'emet is something completely different. Really, be'emet, what happens if you're going to come and you're going to be modeh that you wrote this document? Modeh bishtar sheketavo. Do you have to be mekayem et zeh or not? Rabbi savar modeh bishtar sheketavo en tzarich lekaymo. You don't have to be mekayem. Because if he admits it, I don't have to start validating the document. Rashbag says tzarich lekaymo. You do have to come and you do have to validate it. Okay? So that means basically one more time. I come and I say, you wrote this document. Do you still have to start coming now and checking into the document? According to the first shita, which is going to be Rabbi, for sure not. Why? If he admitted it, what do you have to start checking? That's not forged. He just told you he wrote it. But according to Shitat Rashbag, you still need to. So ask the Gemara, I thought we learned the exact opposite. The Tanya was learned in the Braita, Shnayim adukim b'shtar, two people that are holding on to a shtar. The Malve omer shaliu. The Malve says it's mine. And it fell from me and he found it. The Love says, yes, it is yours. But I paid it back. For sure it's yours. But I paid it back. Just validate the shtar. These are the words of Rabbi. Rashbag says, Yachloku, divide the money between them. So we asked the following question. Well, Rabbi doesn't hold this concept of Shnayim Ochazim b'talit. When you have two people that are holding on to a talit, each one is saying that I found it. Each one has to swear that he doesn't have less than half of it. We're talking about that the shtar is already going to be mikuyam. That nobody argues. That you divide the money between them. When is the machlok between them? Only if it's not going to be validated. Rabbi holds that you have to be mekayem. And if you're going to be mekayem, the shtar gabi palaga, you could collect half. And if not chaspa be'almahu, it's a piece of pottery. Rashbag holds you do not need to do it. Right? And you divide it. So therefore, it comes out that in this braita comes out the same machloke between Rabbi and Rashbag, but just flipped. One more time. I come to Bedim. And I say, they come and they say, okay, yeah, but here's the document. I say, you're right, I wrote the document. Do you still have to validate the document or not? Because I admitted that I wrote the document. Usually validating the document means you have to find out, is it a true document or not a true document? Here, I admitted that I already said I wrote the document. Machloket, Rabbi and Rashbag. Rabbi comes and he says, you do not have to validate the shtar. And Rashbag says, you do have to validate it. As the Gemara, we learned the exact opposite. What do we learn the exact opposite? There, to do with the Braita, to do with Bava Metzia. Over there, we learned the exact opposite. Nafochu. What is Nafochu? Rabbi was the one that says that you do have to validate it. And if you don't validate it, it's a piece of pottery. And Rashbag says that you don't have to validate it. Right? And he says, right, why? He says, answers the Gemara, Eipuf. You're right. We have to switch it. We have to switch the deot of the Braita and Bava Metzia. That really be'emet it's Rashbag that holds, right, that tzarich lekaymo, that means Rashbag would have been the first one, and Rabbi would have been the second one. There's a Gemara. If you want, you could answer another answer. Leolam lo tepuch, really be'emet, do not flip it over. Elahacha belevarer kamipalge, but here the machloka between Rabbi and Rashbag is, do you have to be mevarer to understand even if he's going to be to'ena ta'ana that you do not need. Meaning, I right now come and I say, I don't need the proof. Do we still have to dig in to come and to look for the proof or not? So he says like this, Ki had Rav Yitzchak bar Yosef have a masik bezuze, because this, right, Rav Yitzchak bar Yosef was lending mezuzah to Rabbi Abba, ve'ata lakamed Rabbi Yitzchak nafcha, and they came in front of Rabbi Yitzchak nafcha. Amar, and he comes and he says, Peraticha bifnei ploni uploni. I paid you in front of so-and-so, ploni uploni, whoever it is, two different people. Amar le Rabbi Yitzchak, says Rabbi Yitzchak, Yavo ploni uploni, Yehidu, let them testify. Amar le, he says, Ilo atu lo mehemna. He says, what? If they're not going to come, they're not going to, well, I'm not going to be believed. V'akaimena we paskin, hamalve et chavero bedim, and not tzarich lo bedim. He says, what? I don't understand you. If you're going to come and lend your friend with edim, you don't have to pay back in front of edim. Elmaleh, he says, Anna be'ai keshmata demor sirali. I hold the Amar Rabbi Abba, Amar Rav, Ra'o melech chavero baticha b'fnei ploni ploni tzarich sheyavo ploni ploni v'yayidu. Meaning like this. Technically speaking, if he would have just come and said, I paid you back, is he believed? Yes. Why? Because the Braita it's halakha psuka, hamalvet chavero be'edim. If you lend somebody with edim and it's not written in a shtar, I do not have to pay it back be'edim. So the lending was done with witnesses, but the paying back does not need to be done with witnesses. Says the Gemara, but what happens if I already came and said, I paid you back in front of witnesses? Says the Gemara, bring the witnesses. Now they says, well, 1 second, but I don't need the witnesses. You're right, you don't need the witnesses. But the second that you said you paid back in front of witnesses, now you have to bring the witnesses. And now to make sure. So the machloke between them is, if right now I come and I say, I'm modeh b'shtar sheketavo. I come and I say, listen, I wrote the document. Do I still have to validate it or not? Technically speaking, I say, listen, you don't really need to. No, the machloket is going to be that what? Do I have to come and that meaning, even though I don't need to, do I have to now because I'm already saying it or not? That's the question. Yeah, it's a special question. Which one?
When he wouldn't say that he has witnesses, they will accept it anyway?
Yeah, that's what we just said. That was a question. So Elmaleh comes and he says, "V'hamar Rav Gidal Amar Rav." Says Rav Gidal Amar Rav, the lachaz like Rashbag, that he does not have to be mevarer and lamet devarav if be'emet he says ta'ana that you don't need to. Meaning you don't have to come and meaning okay, yafeh me'od, right? But it's a machloket. And Rashbag comes and he says that you don't need to. Ve'af Rabbi and even Rabbi, right? Kuf Ayin Amud Bet. Lo amar ela levarer. He says only just levarer it. You just have to be mevarer, but not the bemet. You need everything. Okay, so he comes and he says, Elmaleh, he says, Aranami levarer kamina. You're right. I didn't say that you have to come and you have to do it, and if not, right, that's it. I just said, you know what? If you already mentioned it, bring a proof to it. Which means this is a very fundamental machloket in bedin, right? For example, right? Imagine right now we have a court case. And we're going back and forth. Yeah. And all of a sudden I say something. And the truth is, it doesn't have a lot of relevance to the case. Meaning, whether it is true or not, it doesn't really matter. Do I have to come and be mevarer that what you just said or not? Because you're going to say, listen, in tzedachad, you could say, listen, I don't really care. Because it's not like this is the only reason why you're going to win. And then, you better make sure it's true. No. Really, be'emet, it's extra. You don't even need to say it. But the second that you said it, do you have to be mevarer or not? So he wants to say yes. I said you have to be mevarer. You're right. You're not going to change anything because of it. Meaning, not because if it wasn't mevurar, not because if it wasn't validated, you're going to lose. But the second that you said something, that's it. I want to be mevarer. So therefore, that's what the shita of what we're saying is, even though the halakha is like Rashbag, that you do not need to be mevarer, right? But even Rabbi came and he said, but if you already mentioned it, be mevarer. You're right. Lemaskana, it's not going to make an effect. Because let's say I'm mevarer and I couldn't find out. I couldn't do it. Doesn't matter. It's the same halakha. The halakha doesn't change. But once I mention this evidence, now I'm going to come and I'm going to be mevarer. Says the Mishnah. Okay? The Mishnah, this is Kufayin Amud Bet, the Mishnah. Mi shepara miktzat chovo. Somebody comes and he pays off part of the debt. Now, he's afraid that the malveh is going to come and he's going to use the document again to collect the rest of the debt. Not only the rest of the debt, the full debt. So Rabbi Yehuda comes and he says, Yachlif. What do? Write a new shtar with the leftover. Meaning, make a new document that I owe you, instead of, let's say, the $100, $70. No. One second. No. You do a shtar chadash. Right? Yachlif. You do a shtar chadash. Rabbi Yosef Omer, Yichtov Shovar. No, just write a receipt. And that's it. And the guy keeps the shtar. Amar Rabbi Yehuda. So this is going to be a machloket between Rabbi Yehuda and Rabbi Yosef. Amar Rabbi Yehuda says Rabbi Yehuda to Rabbi Yosef, Nimtza zeh tzarich liot shomer shovro min achbarim. So what are you doing? Now he has to come and start watching over this receipt from all these rats and mice and everything. Amar lo Rabbi Yosef, kach yafeh lo velo yera kocho shel zeh. He says that's the zechut of the malveh. And therefore, we're not going to say that now he has to come and start getting a new shtar, right? Well, why are you coming and saying ki'ilu that now the malveh has to come and get a worse shtar? And so, get the other guy. Tell him, okay, you have to write a shovar and keep the shovar. What's the problem?
Does he need to shovar?
Yes.
So isn't it the same thing like writing everything?
What is witness of doing? Amar Ravuna Marav says Ravuna Marav. En halacha lo Rabbi Yehuda velo Rabbi Yosef. The halacha is not like either. You have two people in the Mishnah. The halacha. אלא בית דין מקראים שטר וכותבים לו שטר אחר מזמן הראשון.
What?
Right? He comes and he says like this, the Betin are going to come, they're going to tear up the first star, and they're going to write a second star, but from the original date. Yeah. No, one second. So Elmaleh Rav Nachman Ravuna says Rav Nachman to Ravuna. Rabbi Yirmiyah bar Abba Ravuna. Yishmiel Rav Habraita the Tanya. You said Ayadim Mekarin et Shtar vekudvin lo shtar acher mizman rishon hava adarbe. So then he was going to retract it. And obviously the halacha is not going to be like Rabbi Yehuda. So he says Elmaleh. He says Shmiale Rav Be'emet heard this Braita velo hadarbe, but he did not retract. Right? Why? He says, okay, he's going to explain for tomorrow, Bezrat Hashem, the entire concept of the differences between them.